Welcome to your unfiltered guide to navigating the workplace as a Black woman, the Black Womaning in Corporate America podcast with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. I am the CEO and founding partner of Donut Media, an independent publishing company that amplifies underrepresented and marginalized voices. This podcast was inspired by my award winning and best selling book, Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America. Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Black Women in Corporate America with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. Today, I am super excited because we have a very special guest, and I'm not going to steal any of her thunder. I'm going to turn it right over to her. Super excited to welcome Tanya Wright to Black Women in Corporate America. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Hey, Nicole, can you move over a little bit because you're not
Oh,
in the
yeah.
frame? There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to
Perfect.
see all of you. How you doing? We've been having some technical difficulties, y'all, and we got it together, and we're happy to be here.
Yes, we are. And we talk about pivoting, which is the topic. So, we pivoted so much. I think we made our head spin this morning.
Yeah, it's all about the
But we're here.
pivot, but if you're persistent, right,
Oh,
and
yeah.
focused and
Okay.
intentional,
That's a word.
that's
Yeah,
a
catch that.
word. Come on, it's real talk.
Yes, absolutely. So super glad to have you on and for your patience and persistence. Those two things are clutch. Okay, let's talk about
Yes,
that.
right. That's right.
So please tell the folks at home. I don't know that she needs any introduction. Like two-time SAG Award winner, like hello, come through with the accolades and the receipts. But please tell the folks who you are if you've been living under a rock for the past couple of decades.
Well, Generation X should really know who I am. My name
Okay.
is Tanya Wright. I have been an actor for most of my life on shows like Orange is the New Black, where I
Okay.
played Crystal Bursett, wife of Sophia Bursett on the show. True Blood, ER, 24, NYPD Blue, lots of shows. Got my start actually on The Cosby Show many, many years ago. Yes. So
Okay.
I am, yeah, I am delighted to be here, and I've got other things going on, and we'll talk about that.
Yes, we
A
sure
little
will.
girl called Harriet of Harlem has stolen my heart and my
Mm,
life. Um, so
yes.
yeah. Hmm.
And you're not alone there because and I actually am going to slide on over here because I did mhm,
Oh,
that.
oh,
Yes, I sure.
oh,
Yes, yes, yes. Look, y'all better come get this book because it was everything to me. And I think that it's so needed, especially now where we see what's happening in this
yeah.
country.
Mm,
And so it's such a great reminder, like little black girls need to remember that they are beautiful just the way they are.
mm,
And to me, that is my biggest takeaway. I think, especially as I'm leaning to my fro era,
yes.
this was everything to me. Like it really, it spoke to the little black girl inside me where, you're always told that like, oh, your hair's too this, why does your hair look like that? Why is it so different? Why doesn't it look like everyone else's? And to just know like, no, that's special.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you to you for your thoughtful words about the intention that I put into this book for our children. Our children are everything to me,
Yeah.
and they're everything, especially at this moment. So, just for context, Harriet of Harlem is likely my inner child. She's a little 7-year old girl with ginormous hair made of stars. And she goes on learning adventures with her friends Charlie the Comb and Barbara the Barrette. And I made her hair of stars for a very specific reason.
Mm,
Because we are all literally made of star stuff. All of us. All
yes.
of us. And I want girls and boys to understand how extraordinary they are. This is a
Mm,
little girl who has the galaxy, the universe, at her
yes.
disposal and in her hair. It's very intentional.
Hmm.
Um, it's very intentional that that cover that you put up has a hidden word because I want kids to get excited about words and reading and vocabulary.
Yes.
It's intentional that at the end of
Yeah.
each chapter of the book, there's a cliffhanger, because I believe that kids will be more motivated to read if they're engaged and they actually want to know what happens next. So it is my effort, is my offering
Mm-hmm.
to create a work that will advance literacy in our communities. If children are not reading by the third grade, they are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. That ought to give us all pause. If in the age of AI, reading is particularly important because those that know how to think critically and write a prompt are the ones that are going to be able to succeed
Absolutely.
in ways that most others aren't. So I'm very intentional about our kids. And, I took myself back to school. I'm still here in Cambridge. I went to Harvard University.
Okay.
I graduated from Harvard Graduate School of Education, but I did that because I wanted to be really responsible
Yeah.
around the content around our kids. And so everything that I learned, I poured into that book and all the
Did this
subsequent
book,
books of
baby.
my heart. Yeah.
Yes. And I think to your point, and that's what I loved when I, was approached about the work that you were doing. It spoke to me so much because here you are having a very successful career in Hollywood. And then you had this calling, like this huge shift. And so I would love to talk like what I call what our origin story is, right? So
Mm.
you've got this fantastic decorated career in Hollywood, and then you make this pivot, and we need to talk about career pivots, especially with Black women, okay? And
Mm.
so talk to us about that origin story and how that all came to be, leading us to this fantastic one gift of many to
Mm.
enjoy.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I think the word pivot is an interesting thing because what it
Mhm.
suggests is that I've done something else. Really, the thing I think
Yeah, okay.
a great pivot brings your life along with you, and maybe
Yes.
it looks like a new container. But it's not a disregard of all the things that you've done. So
Mhm.
Harriet, yes, I've been acting all my life. I've also been writing all my life. Not a lot of people
Okay.
know that. I was
Mm.
actually a writer before I was an actor. I wanted to be a writer. I was a
Yes.
very shy, introverted little girl who used to spend a lot of time observing life
Mm.
and making stories and daydreaming. When I was 10 years old, I wrote a story. Um, and listen, I've won lots of awards for various things in my life, but my most cherished award was
Mm.
when I was 10 years old in the 5th grade, and I got an award for best writer. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
for a Christmas and writing a story about a Christmas tree and a family. And we actually didn't have Christmas that year. We had Christmas, but we didn't
Mm.
get any gifts or anything.
Right.
And I wrote this really kind of fantastical story when my teacher realized that we didn't get any gifts or anything for Christmas.
Yeah.
We didn't. I don't think we even had a tree.
Mm.
She was like, gold star for Tanya for her wicked and wild imagination.
Oh,
And
wow.
and and you talk about origin story. I mean, I would say it start there. That's like the first little dot. I think later on, I met John Singleton, and I started writing screenplays when I was in Hollywood
Mm.
because I was on all these sets, and I was like, they're spending a lot of money on these things, and I think that I can make better stories for less money, and I
Okay.
started writing them. And I now,
Mm.
have an arsenal of screenplays. And one of the stories that I wrote was about this little 7-year-old girl named Harriet. But
Mm.
the real thing that happened was during COVID,
Yeah.
when I saw what was going on with education.
Mm.
Education in here in the United States and education globally. Like kids in
Yeah.
rural China weren't able to access their education, and kids in Harlem, which is where I'm from. And so had these stories, and I was looking at what was going on with
Yeah.
education during the pandemic, and it was like, whoa, I couldn't look away. I could
Yeah.
not act like I didn't see what I just saw. and I could not act like I had some ideas about how I could be helpful.
Mm.
So I sketched out a technology that I thought could be helpful to kids, and used that to apply to Harvard, and got in, and really developed Harriet while I was in school.
I
So
love that. And I think that it's so fitting that we always remember that first moment that completely just like really imprinted on us who we really are and what we want to do for the rest of our lives, and that you could trace it back to that young age. And I think all of us can actually. And so, yeah, the writing, it speaks to me, of course, because I am definitely, that is 100% my passion and calling. So I overstand
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
sharing, because it's so powerful, and words are powerful, and words can create so many wonderful things, and that you are using your pen in such a powerful way is nothing short of inspiring.
thank
So
you.
tell us a little bit more about that technology that you put together that got you, into Harvard. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a technology that will help kids read. It is patent pending, so I can't share too much
Fair
about
enough.
it.
Okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
but the Harriet, this Harriet world is a vast world. It's a universe,
Yeah.
and so the books are the start, and there'll be a film and all the things, but we're starting with the books, um, and I'm really intentionally excited about children and reading.
Yeah, I love that. I always I'm curious because obviously Harlem was the inspiration for the book. And so a lot of the characters in here, are those from your real life? Were they inspired by family members, friends? How do those characters come to be?
I would say those characters came to be. I literally, and I think maybe because I'm an actor, I literally, so Harriet is written in the voice of a 7 year old. So I had to, like,
Yes.
sort of access my 7 year old self, which was not difficult to do. I think she's all kind of right there with me all the time. But I just wanted, because Harlem, those of you who have ever been there, or obviously those of you that lived there, it's such a dynamic and colorful and loud, and with so many smells, and such rich and culture and music. And I was like, wow, what if this little girl from 7 years old, kind of looking up at the world, at this really incredibly beautiful, dynamic, colorful place that is Harlem,
Yeah.
that is New York City, that is global. And she is
Mhm.
a African American girl, and
Yes.
she's walking around with stars in her hair on 125th Street.
Mhm.
And and and, and I wanted to write a story from that vantage point. And um and 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 as much as yeah, I'm getting wonderful notes and stuff from parents, and
Yeah.
whose children have read Harriet of Harlem. It's as much as it's been helpful to them, it's been really helpful to me to personally,
Mm.
to get this project out into the world and to share it with everyone.
That, and I think that's what I love about it, because one of the things that I find, especially now, it's so important that our stories are being told. And I
Hmm.
don't feel like that happens enough. And I think
Yeah.
when you even look across the publishing industry, the numbers for how often we are, we even make it's anywhere beyond just our computers that we have the book out there. And even when
Right.
our books are out there, the percentage that are actually featured or highlighted, it's not even in double digits in terms of publishing. And you span it across everything else. And so it's so refreshing and powerful to see ourselves in these stories, because we don't see that enough. And
Yeah.
to have that, especially for little Black girls who feel like they don't really fit in because they don't have traditional hair, as people love to say, but to remind them that their hair is just as beautiful, just the way that it is.
Right.
So that was for me. I mean, as grown up as I am, just like to be able to see that and to read that and to just be reminded of that when we're constantly told different was really affirming for me.
Yeah.
So it like definitely touched my inner child, just being able to see that and be reminded of that. And so I'm curious to know because we have this fantastic story. Like, where is Harriet going next? Like, what is up for her in terms of, if you can, a little teaser maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll do you one better. I'll show you.
Oh, okay,
This is
yes.
it. Boop. That's it.
Oh,
That's where it's going next. So it's Harriet of Harlem is a series. That's a book called Trouble at the Hair
yes.
Salon.
Okay.
Harriet of Harlem is a series, and in every Harriet story, there's a new adventure. There's a
Mm-hmm.
new there's a new place that she's going with her imaginary or not so imaginary friends, Charlie the Comb and Barbara the Barrette. And I want to say that this is a series that is intentional in that it is much more about hair. You know, hair is really an
Yes.
entry point into bigger conversations about life. Harriet is really life lessons through literacy, and and
Mm.
and and um and I want our kids to know that their imagination, because this girl, her imagination is as vast as her hair.
Yes.
Um, that our imaginations are really um, opportunities for us to create solutions to problems or ways to be innovative.
Yeah.
And we talk to kids about playing and imagination, but sometimes when we get older in life and we sort of disconnect from our imaginations. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like really excited when adults read Harriet. They're like, I like her. You know what I'm saying? She's
Yes.
got something. I get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and as much as Harriet is a little black girl, because to your point, there are more books about animals than there are about children of color. And, but I also want people to know that it is good and right for all kids of all colors to read
Yeah.
books with diverse characters. You know
Absolutely.
that you will be healthier, happier individuals on the planet, and
Yeah.
um, and that's important. It's very important.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it opens up a whole other world to be able to expose children, especially at their young age, to let them know that there are others beyond maybe their immediate circle, and to know that they can broaden their horizons, even just right at home, just reading a powerful and fantastic book.
Right,
And so one of the things that you mentioned that I really loved, and I really want to like drive that home for our audience was that pivoting isn't necessarily, you're not leaving things behind. You're just really pulling from what you have done and kind of just like carrying it forward. And I love that concept, especially now when so many Black women have been pushed out of the workforce and they're trying to figure out like what now what and
yeah,
just to remind folks, and I really love that, to remind them that you have that on the inside. You don't have to like just like start from scratch. You actually have so
exactly.
many unique skills within you that allow you to essentially carry to the next chapter. Maybe not a pivot, but like like a new chapter, pulling in some
Right.
of the previous skill sets. And I really love that you mentioned that because I think it's super important.
I love that you say new chapter, because chapters are sequential, right? So
Yeah.
so 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 it's a build on. So
Yes.
that's a great way to say that. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think because, we sit here and I think even to my own experience where I left corporate because I was in a completely toxic job and burnt out and frayed at the edges. It wasn't I didn't actually I didn't start over. I just went back to my roots. So I went back to the
Right.
writing because writing was always what was for me the constant. And so
Mm.
like that resonates so much because like I am 100% a writing girly. And so to
Yeah.
hear you share that, and even it's funnily enough, the book that people more talk about right now that's associated with me is Playing the Game While Black Women in Corporate America. But my favorite book I wrote and released on my birthday last year, which is Sienna Bailey
Oh,
and the Case of the Lost
yes.
Locket. And to
Yes.
your point, it's all about a young detective based in
Mhm.
Montego Bay, Jamaica, where I'm from. And I loved everything about that because it allowed me to see myself in a way
Yes.
that we don't often get portrayed, you know, because I grew up with like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Encyclopedia Brown. These were not uh, kids of color. These were
Yeah.
all traditional, you know, white kids, and they were doing these amazing things. And I thought, well, I'm
Mhm.
smart. You know, I often figure out the case before I get to the end. You know, why
Yeah.
not have a character that actually reflects my childhood and my upbringing in a
Mhm.
way that doesn't really get featured as often as it should, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, you are speaking my language when you talk about writing and how it's been the companion. And so I
Mhm.
think that what more of us need to do is think about what is that thing that has always been there, even throughout
Right.
all of the ups and downs, and how can you use that to create your next chapter. I'm
Right.
that's going to stick with me about the whole thing about pivoting. You're not starting over, like you're just drawing, like you're really
Yeah.
just drawing from what you had there in your storage already, and moving it forward. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I also would love for you, if you could just, if you had one, and I think that's what's interesting is that, even though this is Black women in corporate America, technically you weren't in corporate in the sense because you were in Hollywood, but I think there's still all those applicable things. It's still a corporate setting. It still has a lot of those same kind of challenges because wherever we
Yeah.
go, there we are.
1,000. Yes. Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I'm sure you had a lot of those instances where the challenges that maybe you faced were not common to people who don't look like you. And so a lot of those things we can, kind of extrapolate and bring here. So what do you think was the one thing throughout your career leading up to this new chapter where you're really doing a lot of activism work that really helped propel you forward? I think, like, I know that I saw you shared something on Instagram that really spoke to me about that, or maybe it was Threads, about the whole thing about
Mhm.
no, and
Oh,
being
yeah.
told no. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to know what was that one thing that really kind of drove you forward that you carried over into this new chapter of your life.
Yeah. Well, I would say, it's Hollywood is corporate America. There is no bigger corporate structure than
Oh yeah,
Hollywood. And I want to say that, in terms of creative people right now
mm-hmm.
in the world and on the planet, um, the one thing that I would say that I learned, from being in a corporate structure and in corporate environment in a corporate
Yeah,
world is the ability to, um, I don't want to say, create your own corporate world, but kind of,
yeah,
but create a world, your own corporate world that's kinder. Create your own corporate world that is more intentional. Create
yeah,
a more corporate world that is more equitable. And in terms of creative people, you have at your disposal now the tools to do just that. And I
absolutely.
want to empower creative people, um, to think of themselves as, businesses, but better businesses. Like I said, kinder businesses, more
Yeah,
ethical businesses, because there is a relationship between, creativity and commerce. And what I also know and understand is that a lot of creative people are not necessarily, they like to divorce themselves from the idea of money and finances and those
mm,
things that they view as corporate. And I would suggest the opposite, to sort of embrace those things and and be a, make better structures.
Yeah,
That's what I would say. And you have the ability. We all have the ability to make better structures.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, and I think what you're teasing out is the whole idea of, if you can't get a seat at the table, build your own table. And
absolutely, 1,000%, 1,000%.
and I think that's so true, especially now because, okay, they've pushed you out. Yes, it's,
Yeah,
terrible, devastating, but here's an opportunity to create something for yourself. If there ever was a
yes,
time, this is the time. And to do it different. You don't have to do it the same way. And like I kind of joke about this because this is like totally my upbringing in the church, but how you can be in corporate but not of corporate. And so, you
right,
know, that is a fine line, but you can absolutely do that. So you don't have to completely divorce yourself from the corporate world, but you can separate yourself from those practices that are toxic, that aren't healthy, that are divisive, and you can build something that's even better from those lessons that you took away from that. So I think that's super
right,
powerful to for our audience to hear and to be reminded of, and
yeah,
the accessibility now, right? With
right,
chat gpt and ai, you now can do things that are, typically you would have to hire multiple people for,
right,
and now you
right,
have this
true,
technology that can help make it more accessible and economical for you. So it's really
right,
about if you're willing to take the plunge and just willing to move forward and just go for what's out there and what's yours. Absolutely.
right. Yeah, and that's not to say that entrepreneurship is certainly not an easy thing, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily for everybody. But one thing that I would also say that in terms of corporate, and I don't know if people talk about this enough, whether it's corporate America,
whether you're an entrepreneur, is the importance.
for self care.
Oh
Um,
goodness,
yeah, that has to be really intentional and part of your practice and part of your sort of discipline, because there's no way to sustain whether you're in corporate or
yeah,
whether you have your own business. And not enough people talk about the importance of that. It is vital.
yeah,
You can't sustain without some check-in. You can't sustain without some rest. You can't
yeah.
sustain without some care for yourself. So,
And that looks like all kinds of different things for all of us. So whatever works is
for you is what works, but do that and be intentional about that and do that first before you do
Yeah.
anything else. Yeah.
And it's almost that same concept where when you're on the plane, if you need to put on your oxygen mask, you put on yours first, and then
Yeah.
you help someone else because you've got to first take care of you before you can take care of anyone else. So that
Exactly.
is something that is very vital for us to remember. I think especially in this era where we are expected to be the strong one, the everything,
Mm-hmm.
the one that wears the burnout like a badge of honor, when we should
Right.
just be trying to rest and focus on
Yeah.
self from time to
Yeah. Rest and play. You know,
time. Mm,
um,
yeah.
and play. And I think you know I intentionally made Harriet like she's not dealing with the stress of the world. I want children
Mm,
to be
yeah.
children and to delight in this time in their lives where they don't have to worry think about bills and this and that.
Yeah.
I want them to imagine what's possible for themselves, and and it's a little girl who does that, and and I'm excited about it.
We are super excited as well. So yeah, y'all heard that. Rest and play. Don't forget those two
Rest and
things.
play.
Rest and play.
Rest
Like
and
if we
play.
work hard,
Rest
we
and
must
play.
play hard as well.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so now, of course, as we're wrapping up, if there is one parting word, I think you've said a lot that is really
Mm-hmm.
resonating for certainly for me and will for others. But if there's one thing that you could leave for our audience, one gem, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Mm. I would like to maybe go back to this idea of imagination, and
Mm,
that let us all remember that imagination powers possibility
Oh yeah.
and creates solutions. It's a way to create solutions to problems and a way to be innovative and a way to play. Um,
Hmm.
so so that's what I would love to leave everyone with today.
So we all have a magic nation inside of us. Yes.
Yes,
Just like Harriet. I
mm-hmm.
love it. Yes.
That's right. That's like Harriet.
Tanya, I am so incredibly grateful for your time and for your patience as we sorted this out. But look, we did it and we made it
We
through.
did
And I
it.
know this is going
Yes.
to touch a lot of folks. So thank you for your time. And I cannot wait to see what's next for Harriet.
Thank you so much. You're really delightful, and I'm grateful for you. And so, thank you, and your support of Harriet. It means a lot to me. So I appreciate it.
Of course. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Black Womaning in Corporate America, the podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, or submit a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. And don't forget to grab your copy of Playing the Game while Black Womaning in Corporate America, available now wherever books are sold. Until next time, take care.